Before we begin, this is your only warning. What you're about to hear is not a story. It's not fiction. It's not a campfire tale. It's a transcript, a real account, dragged from the places online that aren't on maps, the places where search engines don't reach, where IP addresses dissolve like smoke and wind, where a wrong click is enough to take you somewhere you will never come back from. If you're here for entertainment, leave. If you want a jump scare, a cheap thrill, turn away. But if there's a part of you, a part you never admit to anyone, that wants to feel watched, to feel breath on the back of your neck when you're alone, then stay. And before we start, subscribe now, because after this, you might not get another chance. I first heard about Confess here from a username I didn't recognize. It was 3:41 a.m. I was slumped forward at my desk, the glow of the monitor painting my skin a dead pale blue. The air in my apartment felt stale, like it hadn't moved in hours. I'd been scrolling through one of these forums I should have abandoned years ago, a place where urban legends and creepypastas were just bait to hide something much worse. It's the kind of board where posts don't stay up long, where threads vanish without explanation, where clicking the wrong thing can dump a file onto your device before you even know it's there. The post title was simple: Confess Here. It already knows. No emojis, no capitalization, no preview link, just a single string of text, a Tor address, followed by one sentence. Type in anything. It will finish the confession for you. I should have closed the tab. I should have ignored it. Instead, I clicked. The site didn't load like most dark web pages. No sluggish crawl, no broken images. It opened instantly. The design was wrong for the kind of place it was. Clean, minimal, almost too professional. A black screen, a single white box in the center. Above it, in sterile sans serif text, Confess. Here, everyone has something they're hiding. Tell us yours. Beneath that, a blinking cursor. No ads, no sidebars, no music. It felt like a form you'd fill out at a hospital. Cold, clinical. I stared at it for a long time. My mind started making excuses. Maybe it was just a creepy ARG. Maybe it was harmless. Maybe. So I typed something safe, something stupid. I once stole a pack of gum when I was a kid. A harmless confession, BuzzFeed level safe. The cursor blinked once, twice. Then new text appeared beneath mine. That's not your real confession. Your real confession happened in 2016, in a basement with the door locked. I froze, because I did have a basement in 2016, and I did lock that door. And whatever happened there, I had never told anyone, not online, not to friends, not in a drunken slip. My stomach knotted. My palms were slick. I closed the page, slammed my laptop shut. That night, I didn't sleep. Every creak in the building made me flinch. I kept telling myself it was just guessing. That locked door could mean anything. But deep down, I knew it wasn't guessing. At exactly 3:41 a.m., the same time I had clicked the link, my phone buzzed. No caller ID, unknown number. I answered without speaking. There was breathing on the other end, not the kind of static-filled, bad service breathing. This was intentional, slow, wet, inhalations, so close to the mic I could almost feel them. Then a whisper, a voice I didn't recognize. You didn't tell them everything. I hung up so hard, the phone clattered on my desk. But when I picked it up, the call timer was still running. I told myself it was a troll. Some creep from the forum had my number from an old leak, or maybe I'd clicked on something that scraped my info. That was the logical explanation. But the problem was, I couldn't shake the memory it brought back. The basement, the locked door, the fact I wasn't alone down there. I stayed off my laptop the next day. Didn't touch my phone except to check the time. I went out, tried to keep busy. Grocery store, laundromat, anything to keep my mind off that blinking cursor. But paranoia is like thirst. The longer you ignore it, the more unbearable it gets. By nightfall, I was back in front of the laptop, not because I wanted to be there, because I had to be. Because not knowing felt worse than the fear. When I reloaded the site, there was no white text box anymore. No invitation to tell us yours, just a message already waiting for me. Welcome back. We're glad you're ready to finish your confession. The cursor blinked, slow and steady. Then, one letter at a time, like someone was typing from the other side. The next sentence appeared. It starts with the basement, but it doesn't end there. I stared at the screen, my pulse pounding so loud it drowned out the hum of my fridge. My first instinct was to slam the laptop shut. Instead, my hands hovered over the keyboard. I typed, "If you know so much, tell me what I did in the basement." The reply came instantly. "You didn't do anything in the basement. You watched." A cold, prickling sensation spread across my scalp. Before I could close the page, the screen flickered white. A new window opened. It was a video player. Black and white footage. Grainy. The frame showed a staircase. My staircase. The camera angle was from above, like it was bolted into the ceiling. And there I was, younger, thinner, wearing a hoodie I'd lost years ago, standing at the bottom of the stairs, staring at the locked basement door. Something on the other side was knocking. I didn't breathe until the video stopped. When the screen went back to the black page with the blinking cursor, my hand was already trembling over the trackpad. Some sick part of me wanted to test it, so I typed something small, harmless. I once stole candy from a convenience store when I was 7. The submit button pulsed faintly, almost like it was alive, like it could hear my hesitation. I clicked. The page went blank white for several seconds. No loading bar, no confirmation, just silence. Then, slowly, black text began to appear. Not in a rush, one letter at a time, deliberate. "You told your father it was the neighbor who broke the glass, but it was you, and you never apologized." I felt my throat tighten. It wasn't just true, it was exact. The neighbor, the broken glass. I'd been 8 years old. My father had yelled at the man for days, and I'd stayed silent. I laughed, because sometimes that's all you can do when reality bends in front of you. "Funny trick," I muttered to no one. Maybe it was something my parents had mentioned online years ago. Maybe it had been scraped from some old post. Except, my parents didn't post online. Not back then, not ever. The text box pulsed again. "Confess something real." I sat there, heart racing. And before I could stop myself, my fingers started moving. I lied to my best friend in high school about why I stopped talking to her. I told her I was busy, but really, I was jealous. I hit submit. This time, the pause was longer. Then, her name was Emily. She cried for 3 nights and kept the bracelet you gave her in her drawer until she moved out. I covered my mouth. The name, the bracelet, details no one knew, not even me, not anymore. I'd forgotten them. I moved my mouse to close the tab, but the cursor wouldn't leave the window. The browser's X stayed frozen. Text appeared again. You're not done. A tight, suffocating pressure built in my chest. I wanted to slam the laptop shut, but some part of me, deep, animal, irrational, didn't want to anger it. So I typed something else, something shallow, to see if it would let me go. I once pretended to be sick to skip work. The reply came almost instantly. Too small. You know what we want. My mouth felt dry. The light from the screen was the only glow in the room. Every shadow stretching toward me. I told myself I wouldn't go deeper. But the truth was, it already had me. It wasn't just pulling memories. It was unearthing things I hadn't even admitted to myself. I typed. When my dog died, I told everyone it was old age, but it was my fault. I left the gate open. The screen stayed still for a moment. Then, he wandered to the road. You were watching TV. You didn't hear the car until it was too late. My breath hitched. The words kept coming. You felt relief when it was over. It was like being punched in the gut, because it was true. And that truth, the tiny selfish flicker of relief, was something I'd buried under years of guilt. The page was silent again, but I could feel it waiting. This wasn't a website. It wasn't a game. It was a mirror, and it was stripping me down, layer by layer, until nothing was left but the rot.
Then the last line appeared before the screen went black. You've barely scratched the surface. I didn't go to work the next day. Couldn't. I tried to distract myself. Watched TV, played music, scrolled mindlessly through old photos. But no matter what I did, every quiet moment was filled with the image of that blinking cursor, waiting. By noon, I caved. I told myself it was just to see if the site was still there. When it loaded, the homepage was different. Not the clean black background anymore. Now it looked broken. Glitches ran across the page like veins, fragments of half-typed sentences scattered like shattered glass. And at the top, in jagged red text, you stopped telling us things. My stomach churned. The cursor began typing on its own. If you don't confess, we will. I stared at the words, pulse hammering. Confess to what? But the longer I sat there, the more I realized I didn't know what it would count as a confession. Maybe it wasn't looking for crimes. Maybe it wanted something else. Something deeper. I typed, "This is a joke. Who are you?" A long pause. Then, "We are the part of you that remembers." I gripped the edge of my desk, my knuckles white. The room felt smaller, like the air had thickened. The cursor blinked. "You forgot about the alley. Let us remind you." And then I did remember. It was years ago. I was drunk, stumbling home from a party. There was a man lying in the alley, or maybe just passed out, mumbling something I couldn't understand. I didn't stop, didn't even look twice. I just kept walking, didn't want to get involved. The next day, I saw the story in the news. A man found dead in that alley. I told myself it couldn't have been the same one. I told myself it wasn't my fault. And for years I believed it. But now, the memory replayed in perfect detail. The way his hand reached out, the way I ignored it. My hands shook as I typed. "Why are you doing this to me?" The reply came instantly. "We are here for the truth." And then my phone buzzed. Not a text, not a call. A public post. My name, my photo, my home address. And beneath it, they left him to die. It had been posted to an anonymous forum. Hundreds of comments already. More by the second. I slammed the laptop shut, but the words stayed burned into my vision. This wasn't about secrets anymore. Confess here wasn't just a website. It was a weapon. And it was pointed at me. I wish I could say I stayed away, that I deleted everything, burned the laptop, and never looked back. But that's not what happened. It wasn't curiosity anymore. It wasn't even fear. It was compulsion. Like the site had hooked something deep under my skin and was reeling me in, inch by inch, no matter how hard I pulled away. When I opened it again, the interface was exactly the same as that first night. Void black background, a little blinking cursor in the center of the page. I told myself I wouldn't type anything. I'd just see if it had changed. But before I could move my mouse, the text box began to fill on its own. Line after line of my thoughts. Not my words, not my old memories. My thoughts from earlier that day appeared on the screen. I swear I hadn't typed a single letter. It started with harmless things. You wonder how it works. You tell yourself it's a trick. Then it shifted. You think about the basement more than you admit. You still hear the knocking. My stomach tightened, and then, you're wrong. The cursor paused. Then, type. I'm ready. Every instinct screamed, don't. But my chest felt heavy, like the air itself was pressing down on me, like holding my breath for too long. My fingers trembled over the keys. I typed it. I'm ready. The page flickered, and a new image loaded. Not a page, a map. Satellite view. Zoomed in on my street. Zoomed closer, past the roof, past the walls, until I was looking at my bedroom window. It wasn't a stock photo. It wasn't old. I could see myself, sitting at my desk, right there, right now. My head snapped toward the glass. Outside was nothing but night. But in the reflection of the window, something moved. A shape, long and thin, almost human, but not. It stood just far enough back that I couldn't make out its face. The site typed again. We know where you are. We know what you hide. Would you like to confess now? I slammed the laptop shut. The sound echoed sharp and too loud in the stillness of the room. I shoved it under my bed, as if hiding it could hide me. But that night I dreamed, or maybe I didn't. Maybe it was something else. I was walking down a hallway that stretched forever. Doors on either side. Every time I opened one, it showed me a memory I didn't want to see. Memories I'd convinced myself weren't my fault. And in each one, a tall, thin shadow stood in the corner, watching. When I woke, my phone was already in my hand, open to a browser tab. The Confess Here site. The Confess Here site. And this time, it wasn't waiting for me to type. It already had a message. It's time for the real one. Tell us what you've never told anyone, or we'll tell them for you. I didn't even know who them was. Friends, family, strangers. But the thought of anything I hadn't chosen to share, being exposed, made my skin crawl. My chest felt hot, tight. Every ugly thing I'd ever done rose up in my mind like oil bubbling to the surface. No matter how hard I tried to push them down, they were there. I typed one sentence, one thing I had never planned to say out loud, ever. When I hit enter, nothing happened. The page didn't react. The cursor just blinked. A full minute passed. I started to think maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe it wanted something worse. Then slowly, the text box began to fill. Good. Now we start. I should have closed the laptop. I should have pulled the plug from the wall, smashed the hard drive. Anything. Instead, I kept staring. The message sat there in jagged black text. Not wrong because it wasn't true. Wrong because it was too true. It was the kind of truth I had built walls around. I typed, hands shaking. Who are you? The reply was instant. You know me. The air in the room felt heavier, like the space between the walls had shrunk, pressing in closer. I typed again, Number. Tell me. The page refreshed. A new line appeared, but it wasn't typed in the site's clean, sterile font. It was in my handwriting. I froze. Not similar to my handwriting. Exactly mine. The curve of the letters. The way my lowercase r hooked at the end. And under the text, a photo. I felt my stomach turn when I saw it. It was me, in my bedroom. From behind, taken, seconds ago. I whipped around, scanning the room. Empty, but the photo didn't lie. My posture, the angle of my head, the slump of my shoulders. It was exactly how I was sitting right now. I slammed the laptop shut. The sound ricocheted off the walls, but even with it closed, I could feel it. The connection wasn't gone. It wasn't inside the laptop. It was inside me. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept the lights on, sat on the edge of my bed, watching the laptop from across the room like it might open itself. In the silence, I could hear something. At first, I thought it was my heartbeat, but no, this was slower, deeper, breathing, and it wasn't mine. By morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I stuffed the laptop in my backpack, grabbed my keys, and left without even showering. The plan was simple. Go to the electronics store, buy a replacement, leave this one with a smashed screen in a dumpster somewhere far from my house. I didn't even make it out of my neighborhood. At the first red light, my phone buzzed. A new email, no sender, no subject line. Just 2 words in the body. Turn back. My stomach twisted. I glanced in the rearview mirror. A tall figure was standing at the far end of the street, right where I'd pulled out of my driveway, still as a statue. The light turned green. I didn't move, and then my phone buzzed again. This time, with an image attached. I opened it. It was a live feed, grainy, shaky footage from what looked like a phone camera. My friend's living room. And there he was, sitting on the couch, watching TV. Oblivious. The camera slowly panned to the hallway behind him. A shadow, thin, too tall, stood there. Then the feed cut to black. My hands shook so hard, I almost dropped the phone. I called him. No answer. I called again. Voicemail. By the 3rd try, I was breathing so fast, I could barely get the words out. Pick up, please. Pick up. A new text came through before I could finish. Confess, or he's next. I turned the car around. Not because I thought I could stop it, but because I knew I couldn't. Not unless I gave it what it wanted. When I got home, I didn't even take off my shoes. I yanked the laptop from my bag, flipped it open, and waited for the page to load. The cursor blinked. Once, twice. Then, we'll take this one slowly. Start from the basement. My throat went dry, because I knew exactly which basement they meant, and I knew if I typed what really happened down there would be no coming back. I sat there, staring at the blinking cursor. My hands hovered above the keys. The breathing was back, slow, heavy, somewhere behind me. I didn't turn around. The basement. I hadn't been down there in years, not since that night. The night that still made my stomach knot. Even in dreams, I started typing. At first, just the facts. Cold, clinical. The way the door had creaked when I'd opened it. The damp air hitting my face halfway down the steps. The smell of mildew and something sharper. Then the sound, a thud, like someone shifting in the dark. The more I typed, the harder it was to keep my hands steady. Because once I started, I couldn't stop. I wrote the part I'd never told anyone.
That I'd seen the shape in the far corner, that I'd heard it whisper my name and that I hadn't run. I typed about how I'd gone closer, how I'd seen its face, or what was left of a face, and how, when it reached out its long, thin arm, I'd taken its hand. The words poured out of me faster and faster, like they'd been waiting years to escape. I typed the smell of its breath, the way it pulled me forward until my knees hit the cold cement. the way it leaned close and whispered something into my ear, something I still can't repeat even now. When I hit the last period, my screen went black. For a moment, I thought the laptop had died. Then, in the reflection, I saw movement. Not mine. A tall shadow stood directly behind me. I could see its outline in the screen's faint glow. I turned around. There was nothing there. But when I looked back at the laptop, the black screen was gone. In its place was a live feed of me sitting at my desk. Only, my reflection was wrong. It was smiling. Wide. Too wide. And it wasn't typing anymore. It was waving. I slammed the laptop shut and backed away. But the smile, the feeling of that smile, stayed with me. It still does. And sometimes when my house is quiet, I hear the basement door creak open, and the slow, heavy breathing moving closer. We have your confession. Now we have you.